What's the best euphemism for telling people that they're stupid? In Russian we have intelligent thoughts have always followed him, but he was faster. We have something similar in German. Intelligence is chasing you, but you are faster. Could you please type it in German? My husband speaks a little German, and I'm sure he'd like to mumble it under his breath correctly. Die Intelligenz verfolgt dich, aber du bist schneller. I was German for all my life, and have never heard that sentence before. In Greece we say, when it was raining brains, you had an umbrella. In Mexico we say you don't need to study to be an idiot, para pindijo no es estudia. My grandpa used to say, when they were handing out brains you must have gotten scared, that they said trains, and asked for a slow one. My parents always said, one that makes a lot of stops. Also you thought they said drains, and asked for one, that everything went right through. As a kid in Australia it was, when they were handing out brains you must have thought they said milkshakes, and asked for a thick one. By the way guys, if you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to like this video, and subscribe to the channel. It will help us out quite a bit, and if you don't enjoy the videos in the future anymore, you can always unsubscribe. Let's get back to the video. Now I know what Douglas Adams was talking about. A common mistake that people make when trying to design something completely foolproof is to underestimate the ingenuity of complete fools. As the park rangers in Yellowstone say, making a bear-proof trash can is very difficult due to the considerable overlap between the smartest bears and the dumbest tourists. It do be like that though. I'm so glad the park I worked at didn't have large wildlife besides deer. People are bad enough. We had to put gates on the abandoned mine entrances. People go off trail, fall in a sinkhole. Or like one poor bastard, fall into the quarry. Can only do that once. You'd think a danger, you will die sign would work, but it doesn't. Reminds me of when I was up in the Appalachians with my parents. We stopped at an overlook and I, being a bored 13-year-old, started walking along the broad, stone railing. It didn't occur to me that I was one light shove or a tiny stumble from falling 70 feet and tumbling down a steep incline full of trees and rocks. I generally have common sense and have always been a very cautious person. It just didn't register. Lawyer to client who shared detailed attorney-client privilege strategy memorandum with a whole bunch of people, including an adverse party. Client, is there anything you can do to fix this? Attorney, no, you've pretty much waived the privilege and now they know everything. Client, is there any way to put a positive spin on this? Attorney, well, I suppose the judge might buy that this proves that you lack the mental capacity to form specific intent. Not enough ice in the world. Apparently I need to edit this to say that this is not what to actually do for burns. Apply cold water was the first meme. Everyone upvoting me is apparently wrong, and I'm an immature, petty, angry person. Have a good day. You're the reason we have warning labels. That reminds me of you're the reason why there's instructions on the shampoo bottle. I like Bill Engvall's bid on this. On the back of a shampoo bottle it says rinse, lather, repeat. You just know there's some idiot out there still in the shower. Because it doesn't say hey give up man, try again tomorrow. This is a real Turing test. We should create more of them even. Infinite loop conditionals will help spot any rogue androids in our midst. Here's your sign. During the OJ trial there was a hapless lab assistant who didn't follow protocols. Some comedian joked that the defense counted in court, Mr. XXXX, when you saw that the shampoo bottle said lather, rinse, repeat. You didn't follow that, did you, Mr. XXXX? LMAO, I had a teacher that would always say keep them guessing, don't open your mouth, and prove them right. Yes, it's better to be silent and thoughtful than to speak and remove all doubt. A classic. I was too stupid to understand the first one. Thanks for rephrasing. Oh, wait. Abraham Lincoln for the win. My grandfather taught me this quote when was only 6. Didn't understand it until I was 14. and was afraid to open my mouth and tell him, better a witty fool than a foolish wit. It's better to tell your wrong thoughts and be a fool for 5 minutes while they tell you why you're wrong than to keep silent and be a fool for the rest of your life. I've always thought the main purpose was that a smart person will either ask a question to get an answer or remain silent and try to learn from the context and situation. But a dumb person will proudly proclaim they know better and won't change their mind when challenged, thus tying up lots of time and energy no one wants to spend on them if they aren't open to learning. Yes, I agree. I don't really understand why this quote seems to be so popular. It reeks of social anxiety. You can't learn anything if you constantly fear being called a fool. Everyone's a fool at something. Then again, I suppose most popular quotes contradict each other and lack nuance. The point of the quote is shut up and you might learn something. That's the thing though. I can certainly agree with your shut up and you might learn something because it encourages active listening skills, but it's better to be silent and thoughtful than to speak and remove all doubt doesn't imply shut up and you might learn something to me. He has different talents. In Polish we sometimes say clever/wise in a different way. What a nice way to call someone stupid. Most people of Polish descent in America are found in the Midwest, so it kinda checks out. This reminds me of differently talented as a euphemism for disabled people in German. Yeah, ever since differently abled became widespread, there was a lot of similar phrases used to put people down. For instance, I remember some of my teachers calling students differently intelligent intelligentny inaczej in Polish, to the point that it was already a cliche like 20 years ago. I would agree with you, but then we would both be wrong. I said that to my wife once during an argument. Emphasis on once. Ended up cleaning the house after that one, didn't ya? And cooking dinner. Women, am I right, fellas? EHH. Can't live with M, can't live without M, am I right? Yeah, I just realized how that sounded. It's not like that at all. I cook quite often, and when I've said or done something stupid or insensitive or stupidly insensitive, cooking is also my way of apologizing. Some guys give flowers, I make her a steak dinner. We are pretty famous for deeply analyzing relationships based on throwaway jokes here. Although I'm a little thrown off by how many people seem to be calling out your apparent chauvinism while simultaneously accepting that a guy should do extra work/chores because of a disagreement with his spouse, unless you really were wrong or went overboard with the response. Your relationship works how it works, and you don't owe us an apology, an explanation, or jack squat. IDK, different people have different love languages. I would never demand a partner clean the house because he hurt my feelings, but also I've dated people who, no matter how badly they up, had a really hard time saying the words I'm sorry, so if they wanted to apologize through acts of service or some other way that felt more comfortable to them, I wasn't going to force them to apologize verbally. Saying that can be really hard for me too, and I really couldn't explain why. Maybe because I'm buried too deep in never showing real emotions or sincerity to the people I know, and I just joke all the time. It sucks. I like Letterken is your just spare parts, aren't ya, bud? I wish you weren't so awkward, bud. My buddy got in a work accident and got badly burned. When we knew he was going to be okay, as is tradition, we all started making jokes about it, him included. I sent him a picture of the main character from Letterkenny that said, wish you weren't so awkward, crispy bud. He got a good laugh out of it. That's what friends are for. Me and my buddies got hammered drunk, and I had a gravity attack and broke my leg. Going on 20 years hearing about that. I had batteries completely bent and explode in my back pocket, melted my underwear, synthetic, ouch, to my skin, as well as second and third degree burns over the majority of my I wish people had known me well enough to not feel sorry for me and just make fun of me for it, lol. I'm guessing you weren't burdened with an overabundance of schooling. Captain Malcolm Reynolds. Wishing Joss Whedon wasn't such a D, but damn, Firefly has some great dialogue. Shiny. What did I miss? Why is Joss Whedon a D? Lots of actors that worked for him said he's a miserable son of like a super omega bad boss that would threaten and had the power to ruin your career over small things. I love how this guy presented himself as a super feminist for years and did that god awful episode of Angel about domestic violence. And then it turns out he's extraordinary both verbally and go figure. Camouflage, also called cryptic coloration, is a defense or tactic that organisms use to disguise their appearance, usually to blend in with their surroundings. Organisms use camouflage to mask their location, identity, and movement. This allows prey to avoid predators, and for predators to sneak up on prey. One of my personal favorites. They only got 2 brain cells and both of them are fighting for 3rd place. I've always been a fan of they haven't got 2 brain cells to rub together and make a 3rd. They have only 3 brain cells, 2 of which just happen to be there and are waiting for a polite moment to leave. I've always just heard he hasn't got 2 brain cells to rub together, which is a play on the old he hasn't got 2 pennies or happiness to rub together as a euphemism for poor. It probably refers to the practice of sweating coins, which is where you take newly minted / unworn coins and rub them together, usually en masse in a pouch, to skim off a bit of gold / silver powder and accumulate it over time, leaving the coins looking naturally worn. My daughter told me my brain cells were socially distancing. A coworker was complaining about someone who used to work there, and I said, oh, she was one of those ones that didn't have 2 brain cells to rub together? And he goes, no, I think she just folded the one in half. Couldn't pour water out of a boot with instructions on the heel. At a keg party about 100 years ago, my buddy was trying to make nice with a girl. Says, that's a really cool mug, can I see it? She hands him the mug and says, I made it myself, my name's on the bottom. He proceeds to turn it upside down to read her name and pours the beer in her lap. My hubby's grandpa used to say this, but instead of water it was. He was a salty old guy with a heart of gold. I sure miss him. Edit, to those of you who also miss your grandpas, sending you a hug. My husband and I have been married a long time, and his grandpa always treated me like a granddaughter. He called me kid, even when I was in my late 40s, haha, up until he passed quickly from cancer at age 96, still sharp as a tack. He wore western shirts with pearl snaps and a Stetson, and he gave great hugs. So lucky to have had him in my life. Saw 2 coworkers going about a task in the worst way I could imagine. I said, I believe, if there was a harder way to do that, you two would find it. They didn't get it. I walked by 2 co-workers having a bit of fight about which one of them was dumber than the other. I said, you're fighting over 1st and 2nd place guys, and walked off. When it's a total at work, I usually turn to one of my coworkers and ask, how many monkeys does it take to football anyway? Too many idiots, I have said that to over the years, have needed an explanation, so I always tell them the same thing. Picture a group of monkeys fighting over a football, American style, with hard-ons trying their absolute best to find a hole to stick it in this poor football. That's what we / they / you look like right now. 9 times out of 10 it gets a huge laugh and eases the tension. The rest of the time I get accused of more a dumb stare. They never open their mouths without subtracting from the sum of human knowledge. That is a tasteful expression. Oh, and may I ask what's on your mind, if you'll forgive the overstatement? Where did you get this from? They're genius. Good question. They're two that have stuck with me for their eloquence. Having now checked, I paraphrase slightly, but the first is attributed to Thomas Brackett Reed and the second Fred Allen. Here's a bonus one. He can compress the most words into the smallest idea of any man I know, Abraham Lincoln. Wow, I'm not familiar of the first 2, but they sure are poetic. Thanks for sharing the quotes. When dealing with people that have a tech problem and it's clearly a user error, a friend of mine referred to it as a layer 8 problem. The classic network stack has 7 layers, and the last one, layer 7, is called the application layer. Therefore, by extension, layer 8 would be the user layer. So the next time your parents complain their phone is acting up, Just tell them it's a layer 8 problem. Problem with the meatware. I work in a /V event production, and we continually have to scramble to fix screw-ups or unexpected needs that our client never mentioned in weeks of planning. Obviously if it's an emergency, you need to convey that, but you don't want to start swearing and hollering in front of the client, so I came up with having an NTAC problem as shorthand for all my texts to use when just hit the fan. NTAC, never trust a client. He needs to carry a plant to make up for the oxygen he's wasting. In the I always heard you'd better apologize to those trees for stealing their oxygen. We actually had a potted plant for this purpose, to be carried by whichever mouth breather decided to spread some of his wisdom. My dad told a story of a guy in his unit did something so stupid their sergeant says, if the trees knew you were wasting their oxygen like this, they'd kick out. If brains were leather, you couldn't make a saddle for a June bug. Lol. I thought I'd heard all southern style euphemisms, but this one is new to me. My nana always says about as useful as a June bug in July. I always get a kick out of it, lol lol. I love that one too. My dad always had the most country ones. That'll go over like a turd in a punch bowl. You're grinning like a possum eating hungry enough to eat the north end of a southbound mule. He used to say them to us kids to make us laugh and make my mom pretend to be upset. Bless your heart is a common southern subtle slap. I'm from the south, and from my perspective this can go both ways. Like, if someone's house burned down, their spouse left them, their dog died, and they got fired all on the same day, bless your heart is completely appropriate. It all depends on the context, which is why the overall usage in movies and TV so often feels wrong to those of us in the South. Even if you say it right after someone says something stupid, it may not be a put down depending on a lot of things. It's fascinating how the phrase can be used as a term of endearment and sympathy, and also a minor jab depending on the context. It can sometimes be both too. I find that Southerners appreciate the distinction, whereas up north it always seems to be used in a derogatory manner, and thus loses the charm it has somehow. I think my favorite usage is in reference to someone doing some with the best of intentions of being helpful and failing and making it more difficult for themselves. My boyfriend falls into the more heart than sense category a lot. He gets a lot of, oh Lord bless his hearts, from my family and friends. Had a kid who was a new hire once. Put a roll of plastic sideways in a wheelbarrow. Rolled it up to a doorway. Looked at it and said it won't fit. Other supervisor looks at him, grabs the poly, turns it sideways, and throws it back in the wheelbarrow. Says he's all yours, he's on your crew. Ever thereafter, we would say it won't fit every time somebody was doing something really stupid. In Sweden there are many ways to say it, but I quite like a specific one. It has no actual translation, because what you call garden gnomes is called tomter in Sweden, which translates back into Santa Claus, but as a plural. So, what we say is person has Santa Clauses / garden gnomes in the attic. Garden gnomes are a creature believed to help or cause mischief in the home. It's sort of like a leprechaun. IDK. A better match in English might be gremlin. Unsure. I just think of the movie version, if what a gremlin is. And that is not a tomt. I forgot all about the movie. I was thinking of the real, old, meaning, just a tiny mischievous creature that causes things to malfunction. A tomt, or hustomt, is someone who is a boon to the household. An invisible hello the size of a rat. Old Swedish culture. Sometimes you'd feed them, or sacrifice small things to them to have good things happen. It was not a major thing, but a small popular belief. If you mistreated them, or didn't feed them, they would misbehave and cause things to malfunction / bad luck. You're smarter than you look. Did I just insult your looks and say you look dumb? Did I just compliment your intelligence? Or is it just a straight up insult? How much smarter are you? How dumb do you really look? You'll never know. Someone once told me that I was too pretty to be that smart. I think it was a compliment, but it's been like 8 years, and I'm still thinking about it. It's more of a play on words, but it's a jab at how you appear, rather than your intelligence. Someone can look smart. Not intellectually, but stylishly. Your looking smart is a compliment of someone looking stylish, neat or elegant. It's fallen out of common usage, but you'll see it occasionally. If you're smarter, this time meaning intelligence, than you look, then they're saying your appearance isn't up to snuff. I've told people that their arguments are at a level and experience where they are clearly going to win. There is a saying, never argue with an idiot. They drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. It is fun listening to them brag about winning. Arguing with an idiot is like playing chess with a pigeon. You can play really well, but they are still going on the board and strut off like they won. I now have a desire to tell someone that they strike me as someone not to play a game of chess against. This is the best one by far. Most of these other ones are fairly easy to work out and clearly are insulting when you do, but this one is slick. What you mean is the level and experience of their arguments is that of stupidity, and therefore you will never win. But their interpretation is that you saying level and experience and clearly going to win together means that they have a better argument and have won the discussion. Very nice. I'll be using this. Best watch your tone when saying this, or be found out. I've used a slightly different version of this, well, with the way you research facts and incorporate new information into your opinions. I'm obviously incapable of changing your mind. There is a viral video in Germany at the moment where a streamer rants about the corona policies. Multiple scientists commented that they would love to express their frustration as emotionalism, but that would be unprofessional. Some media described his language, which was targeted at his stream audience, as intercomplex, which translates to below complex, and is basically a journalistic euphemism for stupid. I moved to the American South recently. My favorite phrase now is bless your / their heart. Usually spoken by older women, when you or someone else has done something, or said something incredibly stupid. But it can be sympathetic also. The Browns' house burned down last night. That's terrible. Bless their hearts. Interesting. I've never heard it without a decent amount of snark attached to it. But I guess I tend to hang around snarky people, lol. My grandfather used to say to guys who thought, because they went to school, that they were smart, well, you're a real college boy, aren't you? One guy he said that to, who was being incredibly arrogant while totally lacking common sense, replied, yes sir, and it's about time you finally recognized that. In some parts of China we call someone a short-sighted or an idiot by saying that they are the type of person to leave a carving on their boat. In Chinese mythology, people often leave carvings on trees and bamboo to mark a specific place. One particular story tells about a man who dropped his sword while crossing a river and carved a sword symbol into the side of his boat so he'd remember where he dropped it. After getting to the other side, he took off his clothes and dove into the river to fetch his sword, blissfully unaware that the carving had moved with the boat, but not his sword. The complex matter that is water is probably subject to even more sayings regarding stupidity, but one Italian one springs to my mind. It basically translates to you're even too inept to make a hole in the water, and is generally said with a great amount of snark and/or sarcasm. Contrary to many other types of remarks concerning more the book smarts kind of intelligence, this goes more for someone who is extremely clumsy and inept with, mostly, manual tasks in most cases. Interestingly, the almost same expression, making a hole in the water, is also used to indicate a useless and impossible task. However, there do exist other funny concepts for this as well in Italian, such as straightening the devil's tail, which is said to he curly, breading a soup, and pestling wine in a mortar. This is the end of the video. Thank you guys for staying with me till the end. If you enjoyed watching this, you might as well watch these too.